Welcome back, everyone. We just found out that Andrew Garfield will be coming back to the MCU, paying off his teaser from Spider-Man No Way Home that he, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, would do this again sometime and hang out together. So we'll break it all down and what the plan is for his character going forward.
I always wanted brothers. We should do this again, like, all hang out.
It's nice.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, it's a good idea. I'll just grab your number at the end of the battle.
You got it.
If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We have Loki Season 2 episodes coming up after Ahsoka, and those will connect with the larger Avengers Kang Dynasty Secret Wars plot. I'll start pointing out Easter eggs and connections in the upcoming Marvel movies and shows as we see them. Some of the stuff will not be super connected to the larger Secret Wars plot. Some of it is more Earth-based stuff, like Captain America 4, for instance. There's also a cool bit of news that Lord & Miller might be in talks with Marvel to do Avengers Secret Wars, and after watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I definitely think that they could handle a story that big with that many characters. And speaking of bringing characters from Sony's Spider-Man movies to Avengers Secret Wars in live action, I'm actually hoping that instead of doing the Thor Corps from the more modern Secret Wars, they actually do the Spider Society, and we get to see live action versions of Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Gwen, and Miles Morales. Connecting things back to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, of course he had a short cameo scene during Across the Spider-Verse. He'll probably have a bigger one during Beyond the Spider-Verse in a couple years, along with Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland's Spider-Man. A lot of versions of Spider-Man coming back in multiple movies in the next few years, like a whole lot of Spider-Man all over the place. Andrew Garfield coming back to the MCU is primarily for Avengers Secret Wars. There was a new report that Kevin Feige had begun the process to actually get him back in a bigger role for Secret Wars just before everything shut down for the strikes.
Would you do it again? Would you put the suit on if given the opportunity?
You know, never say never. I mean, it's a character that's always gonna be so meaningful to me and so beautiful to me. And again, it comes back to service, you know. I think if there's a way, because that's what that character is all about. He's all about serving the greater good and serving his fellow people, his fellow, you know, serving humanity and all life, you know. So if there's a way for me to continue to add to the legacy of that character in a way that feels like it's of service to an audience, of service to the themes, that, you know, the themes that Stan Lee kind of, you know, injected that character with, I'm open, of course. I'm very, very open.
Nobody can do any work on pretty much any movies at all that haven't already been written or filmed. That's why some movies are still coming out this year, and they're still doing visual effects work and polishing other movies, like The Marvels is still coming out in November, because they don't need new actors or new writers for that film. They're past that stage. But supposedly Marvel fired both of its writers for Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty and Avengers 6 Secret Wars, so if you didn't like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, or Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, that's good news for you, because the writers from both of those movies were doing Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Since they were fired, a lot of the plot will probably change for both movies, but some of the big beats will stay the same. Typically for bigger Avengers movies, if you haven't heard about this before, Marvel started visual effects work about 4 years in advance. That's what they did for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. They worked on both those movies at the same time, so when they announced Infinity War and released that first big teaser with the Russos just hyping the movie up, another team at Marvel had already started working on the very final battle scene for Avengers Endgame. That's how long it took to complete that final battle scene. That's one of Marvel's tricks for getting movies out so fast, is that they pre-plan what some of their major battles are going to be before the actual script is written. Visual effects for big battles just take so long to complete. The sooner they start, the faster they get the movie out. But as you would guess, it causes a lot of problems for them later on too, especially with the script, like how they make things connect if they already have this giant battle scene planned out and made. So at least right now, even though the script for Secret Wars will completely change, for example, they already know what the final battle is going to look like mostly, and they'll just tune things with a few minor character changes later on if they aren't able to get certain actors to come back, or if they decide to change who's in that final battle later in the process. For instance, Nova was in a version early on for that final battle in Avengers Endgame, but obviously they swapped Captain Marvel in for him.
Macho Man, Russo Brothers, how do you guys not have any Nova Corps member in a fight against Thanos? Love the movie, but just boggles my mind. Didn't even have to be Richard Rider. I look closely at that scene again, and you will see.
There are thousands of people.
Yeah, you will see Richard Rider in the background of a shot. Easter egg.
Right now, both Kevin Feige and Sony separately have been trying to get Andrew Garfield to come back as his Amazing Spider-Man for multiple different movies. Kevin Feige and Marvel just want him back for Avengers Secret Wars. That's mostly what this video is about. The stuff he'd be doing in Secret Wars is totally different from why Sony wants him back. Sony has like a billion Spider-Man spin-off movies they're releasing. It's Morbin time all over the place for them, and they want a live-action Spider-Man to put in all those movies. Tom Holland does not want to do 5 billion Spider-Man movies. He even just took a longer break from acting last year just to give himself time to chill out before they start working again on Spider-Man 4. Sony has to find another Spider-Man to use, and they're not quite ready for live-action Miles Morales, at least not until after Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, and that's been delayed till at least 2025. It could be even longer. A lot of people want to see Sony make Amazing Spider-Man 3 for Andrew Garfield. There have been a lot of reports they tried to get him to come back for that. They tried, operative word. Right now, it seems like he's only going to come back for Secret Wars and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, but during those, he's doing two completely different things. During Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, his cameo scene would probably just be a larger live-action version of his cameo scene from Across the Spider-Verse. Pretty simple setup. Same for Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland. The main reason why you didn't see bigger cameos from them in Across the Spider-Verse was because of the whole plot revolving around the Spider Society trying to hunt down Miles Morales and trap him, and there's no way that their three versions of Spider-Man would be totally cool with that. They even kind of just did a version of that in Spider-Man No Way Home with Doctor Strange trying to pull the same trick with Tom Holland's Spider-Man and prevent him from saving the villains. In Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it was just Miles trying to save his father that they were trying to prevent. The plan right now for Secret Wars is to assemble a multiverse team of Avengers just made up of sort of a Hall of Fame of legacy characters from older movies like the X-Men movies, Fantastic Four, the other Spider-Man movies like Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield's movies. Before they fired the current writers of both those movies, the loose plan was to have a new version of the MCU Avengers form in Kang Dynasty and fight the Council of Kangs, or the Dynasty of Kangs, whatever they're calling themselves right now. They're meant to lose, like the Council of Kangs will be too powerful, too many of them, their technology is vastly superior to the new Avengers, so they have no chance. This might have changed in the last couple of months with all the delays, but they wanted initially to make their Secret Wars be a totally new plot, loosely based though on the classic 80s Secret Wars in the more modern version of Secret Wars. At the end of Avengers 5, after the Avengers have gotten their asses handed to them, a version of the Beyonder, who might wind up being another type of Kang variant, we'll see about that. Before all the drama, the rumor is that it was going to be the Kang who they thought Ant-Man had killed. He survives, returns with god-tier power, kills the Council of Kangs, fulfilling his promise during Quantumania. Like that was the first thing he wanted to do, was kill the rest of the Council. Then collapses the multiverse, like destroys all of reality to create Battle World, and you have a bunch of survivors, but they're all from different universes, and Marvel's plan was to say that most of the survivors are just all these legacy characters from the old Fox Marvel movies, the Sony Spider-Man movies, and Doctor Strange, from the MCU, has to assemble an Avengers team with them. They eventually wind up defeating the Beyonder, bringing everyone back and remaking the multiverse, but do so with some minor changes, allowing them to sort of soft reboot things, fold in whatever changes they want to, explain how X-Men are all over the place in the MCU, the 616 universe going forward. That's why you're hearing all this talk about them soft rebooting the MCU with Secret Wars. I did a whole separate video about that, so I'll link it at the end of this and down in the description below. The whole idea is that Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man would be a big part of that Multiverse Avengers team, like a slightly bigger part than he had in Spider-Man No Way Home. Same idea for Tobey Maguire too. This would allow Kevin Feige to pay off all the things, the ideas that he had for crossovers years and years ago that at the time he couldn't pull off for legal reasons, or he didn't have enough juice at the time, or enough bargaining chips, or there were just too many lawyers involved. Now he can do whatever he wants with any of the characters. For instance, back in the day, the X-Men movies wanted to have a crossover between Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. This was going to happen in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but when it came time to actually do the cameo scene, they had a problem with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine suit, so they couldn't actually do the cameo at the time. But now, there's none of those problems. They can do all the crossovers that they want. So the idea is that Avengers Secret Wars will mostly be made up of non-MCU versions of the characters coming back. They might split Secret Wars into two movies. If they do that, then we'd see more MCU characters in part 2 probably. Let me know in the comments, where else do you want to see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man come back in the movies, either MCU movies or the Sony Spider-Man movies? My Ahsoka Episode 3 video will post after they release it this week. We should get a new Loki Season 2 trailer really soon too. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss those. Click here for my Ahsoka Episode 3 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. And click here to learn why Marvel is rebooting the MCU. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.